God once told St. Catherine of Siena, "Every perfection and every virtue proceeds from charity, and charity is nourished by humility." If God is emphasizing that every perfection proceeds from charity, it makes sense that his two great commandments are about love, right? Are to love. As I understand it, charity is the highest form of love because it signifies the unique selfless love that God gives to us. So by loving without expectation of getting anything in return, we're able to love as God loves. When communicating with our spouse, we often communicate about our own wants.
Now, there's a difference between what I want or what we might want, like, hey, you want to try this out, you want to go out to eat, whatever. I might want that, you might want that too, versus me wanting to get my way, right? And that's a selfish one.
Right,
so
right.
We should communicate the good wants because we're one,
right?
But we shouldn't be selfish.
Right. So that's something that happens, often, especially with me. And even worse, sometimes our communication is colored by how I'm feeling. For example, if I'm irritated, I might speak to you in an irritated manner. Or if I'm tired, I might show how tired I am by speaking to you that way, I might go like this, which who wants to talk to somebody who's like, it's just not fun talking to somebody who looks like that. You're thinking, am I bothering them? Whatever. When I do this, I'm thinking of myself and not of you, right? That's ideally not the case, right? So according to this statement from God to St. Catherine, if I want to perfect myself, I'll speak more charitably.
Sounds great, but how?
Well, the next part of the statement by God answers this question. He says that charity is nourished by humility. And, we had a post recently on humility, right?
Yeah.
That talks about that. Yeah. So, this is the ideal. Essentially, you're thinking more of the other person than you are of yourself. For example, if I've had a long day, which often happens,
yep.
I kind of don't feel like listening about your day because listening to you about, how work goes, because no. But I mean, often I don't know what you're talking about because, you're doing software engineering stuff that I don't really understand. And if I'm tired, I'm kind of not ready to hear that. And sometimes I just want to dwell on what I've gone through myself. So when I've had a long day, it's easy for me to be selfish and to think, do I really need to listen to this? You're talking about C++ or something that I don't know how to relate to. I might want to talk about myself or something, but ideally, in being humble, I might say, try to be interested in what you're saying, right? So I might say, oh, explain that to me, or really, so, how does that affect your work or something? I might try to, listen with attention and stuff rather than with love, right? Rather than thinking about myself and how long my day has been, So, that's an example of.
Cool. So that's sort of selfish thinking, like feeling sorry for yourself tends to be selfish, right? But there are other things that you probably should communicate, right? So like if I let Claudia know, like, hey, is it okay if we don't put pine nuts in the salad because I actually have an allergy to pine nuts and I get like a really bad headache. So yes, that is about me, but it's about like sort of something that's actually causing a harm as opposed to I want this and I want that. Like I don't like tomatoes or whatever.
Right. You're not really feeling sorry for yourself when you're telling me, can we avoid the pine nuts today in the salad, or can we avoid pine nuts? You're just reminding me that this is something that really hurts you physically, and that makes sense.
Yeah, so those things you definitely do want to communicate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I guess being, whether or not we're being selfish really is something that we have to discern and pray about, ask God about, right?
Yeah. So so that's actually what we challenge you to do is do some discernment, pray to God, try to distinguish what you're pushing for is a legitimate thing to ask versus pushing for something that's selfish. So yeah, that wraps this up. And if this has been helpful to you, please feel free to give a like or a follow. That helps us. If you know anybody that this could be useful to, feel free to pass it along, and we will see you next time.